everyone. Another exciting episode of the 5 Spot for the National Hardware Show. It is my honor and delight to introduce you to Kim Sentovich. I have the pleasure of working with Kim Sentovich back in early 2000 when she was an amazing regional vice president with the Home Depot. And now she's the CEO and president of Rachio, which is one of the smartest irrigation systems out there. Hi, Kim. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Good afternoon.
I am so excited. Okay, well, we're celebrating International Women's History Month. I mean, there's so much to celebrate. So, of course, when I was thinking about just powerful, amazing women in this industry, you were one of the first ones that came to my mind. So thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. And I'm wondering if you can give people a little background. Who is Kim? I mean, you've been with Home Depot, you've been with Walmart, all of your experience is just so impressive. So I just like to stop and say Happy International Women's Month to one of the strongest women I know that truly empowers other women. I am first knowledge of this from the beginning of my career at Home Depot almost 20 years ago. But give us a little history of just, what brought you into the home improvement industry and your iteration of just kind of how you've navigated it.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Very nice of you. Nice intro. And also happy International Women's Day to you as well. And any other women out there. It's a whole month, so I'll get to hopefully meet up a few more. But gosh, how I got into hardware, like totally by accident. It was back in the day when I was in college and you need like a college job. And I was working as a summer intern for Behr Paint. And they asked me, like, this new upstart chain called Home Depot was opening stores in the Northeast. And they're like, hey, in between classes, could you go call on these stores? Because we don't have anyone else to call on them. So I used to drive out on the days that I didn't have classes and go fill the color chip center in the
I love it. I love it.
Stores in the Northeast. And then after I graduated from school, Behr hired me to be a rep in the Northeast, and it was a growing area. And then I moved back to California with them and did some marketing and some other stuff like regulatory affairs. It was kind of like a small company. So it was like, hey, whatever we got going on that no one else wanted to do, like, we'll put Kim in there. And then gentleman from Home Depot that I was on the National Fire Code Committee with said, hey, you need to come work for us. Like, it's an upstart company. We're like growing really fast. And at that point, Home Depot didn't even have 250 stores. And I started on the West Coast in Home Depot. So got at Home Depot as a merchant. He asked me what category I thought I would be good at buying. I'm like, well, I worked for a paint company.
Yeah,
like, that's the only thing I know anything about. So I should be a paint merchant. So I was a paint merchant, and then moved into operations. They were looking for people in operations, and they were like, you've always been a merchant that like got out on the floor of the stores and talked to customers and listened to what was going on. So you should be able to do operations, and did operations. And then Walmart called me because they were looking for people in California, and I've spent my whole career out in California. And so I went to Walmart and ran stores in California, Washington, Oregon, Alaska, and Hawaii. And it was a great experience. Got a whole bunch of new categories. I was like, this is great. Now
I love it.
Like food and electronics and apparel. And then I went to work for a smaller company, just really feeling like I had always been in really large companies and never been like the person that was like at the board meetings and everything else. And so I wanted to try, getting some more experience. I got supply chain and HR and a bunch of loss prevention and operations. So went to work for 2 private equity companies that were in apparel, one being Gymboree. And then which was great because my
mothers know that one for sure.
Yeah, I know. Well, and it was one of those like and it was great because I'd been in these 2 industries where I'd been doing, women at Home Depot and on the Global Women's Council at Walmart, like really trying to make sure we had more women in retail. And I get to Gymboree and it's like 98% of the district managers are women. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So And my kids were young then, so it was great, you know, like all these kid clothes, because they had like Janie and Jack and Gymboree and another brand called Crazy 8.
Oh yeah, I know them all. I know them all.
Yeah,
My kid's 9. I'm familiar for
yeah,
sure.
you've got them all down. And then I went and worked with Torrid, which is another company that's great. Really about empowering women as well, which is one of the reasons that attracted me to it, because they do they kind of plus size or women, but do it in a different way that really says that everyone should be proud of who they are. And they were sort of like led the way in sort of like that size inclusive in apparel. So, you know, always had a place, even when I was at Home Depot and Walmart, where it was like, how do you do things even in your everyday career that help empower women and make sure that we have more women that are learning and coming up through business and helping to take on more senior leadership roles.
It's crazy too. I mean, it sounds like, so you're with Home Depot, how many years?
Ooh, almost 16.
Yeah, it was a long time. I love it. You're just like, and then I went to Walmart, and then Walmart, what, like 2 or 3? So it seems like, or 2,
No,
3?
no, I was there almost 7 years.
Oh
So
my God. So two, almost over 2 decades, you're with these powerhouses, right? So it's crazy though. It sounds like a way to success. And I think it's being woman or man is just being open to taking on a new challenge, right? Learning a new job set. Cause you did, I mean, you were in merchandising and then went to operations, and even in these different retailers. I mean, would you say it's like, obviously you keep adding new skill sets to your already amazing base of skill sets, but I mean, I think it's like, don't ever stop learning and growing. And you mentioned, we were talking mentoring, because you always, like, we kind of glossed over it, but you really were on the forefront of woman empowerment in Home Depot. I remember these seminars that you would host for all the assistant managers and managers, and I was on some of those where you'd come in and give ladies the right tools, and then watching some of those women go through like DM and go through the ranks. It's so fun to see it. So, what's your take on mentorship? Because you were talking about that a little bit earlier, and I was like, wait,
yes.
don't tell me now. Tell me on the 5 spot, because
Yeah, no.
I love it.
I've always been big on like I had women at Home Depot, and then like I said, I was on the Global Women's Council at Walmart. But figuring out like, how do you get women more exposure in the, like in the companies so that they're getting mentors. And I've always told people, push yourself outside of your comfort zone. So there's a lot of statistics that talk about women and how we have to be feeling like if there's a job or something that's up there to get applied for, that you're like, oh, well, I have to have checked all 10 of them before I should even apply, and the reality is, a lot of the guys will be like, oh, I got 5 of the 10 done. So like, I'm good,
Yeah.
And so really getting more women that I've been mentoring, and I'm like, just push yourself outside of your comfort zone. I know you don't think you can do this, or you don't think you have all the experience necessary, but I'm telling you, you will learn a lot of pieces. And that was something that people that mentored me did. I mean, I remember Bruce Marino and Barry Silverman, 2 people that you probably remember, who were great mentors to me, that said, oh yeah, don't worry, you can go into operations. What do you mean you've only been a merchant? You can do operations. So I think that's one of the big pieces. And then I always tell people that the one thing you can't hire for, and I always look at it even today when I'm filling roles in my current position and other ones, is curiosity. So pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and just being curious about other areas of the business, and just diving in and figuring out those areas has really served me well in my career. But I also know it's something that a lot of other people are looking for in their businesses.
Absolutely. No, that's so well put. I mean, and even, where I am today, I find that it's just at Home Depot, I would ask about operations. I would ask about HR. I would ask why. But then now, working with the National Hardware Show, promoting products, it's kind of nice to know your one expertise, but to know the spider web that goes into it, right? It only helps you be so much better at what you're comfortable with when you go outside of your comfort zone. I love that. So, I mean, would you say that's how you ended up with Rachio? I mean, and Rachio, we're going to run some B-roll while we talk about it, but it's just such a great, they were acquired, right? Was it, how long ago were they acquired?
No, they were a venture-backed company,
That's
and
right.
I
That's
was
right.
doing, I've been an executive in residence for Miramar Ventures, which was one of the original seed investors for them.
That's
So
right.
they've been with the company since the beginning, watching them grow up from like idea. And it's a great story. They, one of their original places that they got put in was at Home Depot. So they were in the back corner of of the show, and up walks the Home Depot buyer who's going through the back, looking for the new upstart companies. And he's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so they demoed the product for him in Atlanta. And he was like, I want an exclusive. And they put it in the stores list, one of their first places that they were for I think they were there for they had a 6-month exclusive or something with Home
I
Depot.
remember that too. That was like mid, was it like 20, maybe 2010? No, would it have been?
No, it was later than that. It was like 2014.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but it was, it's one of those great stories about what makes Home Depot unique, about how they were out there, back in the day where we would find all the products. When I was a merchant, you had open to buy days, and you would be giving somebody their first shot, finding those unique products.
It's
So
so
it was
cool
great.
too. And what would you look for? Okay. So since a lot of people watch this that are, inventors, a lot of really strong female inventors. In fact, I have someone on this week, National Hardware Show, OME Wanderer. It's like a cot beach chair. It's amazing. But what do you look for? Or, when you go to these shows, is it just the product? Is it how it works? Or, I mean, is it a compilation of things, you would say?
I think one of the big things, and Rachio, is that it solves a problem for the customer. Because I'm always you've got to be really customer focused. There's lots of cool things. And now that, especially with IoT, there's all kinds of cool things you can be doing and everything. But sometimes you've got to make sure that the cool thing that you're doing is actually solving the customer problem.
Yep.
So that when the customer sees it, they're like, oh, I need one of those. That solves a problem that I've been having, and I didn't even know that there was a product out there that solved that problem. And that was, Chris, the story of Rachio was, he was out, and he sees these sprinklers going off.
I was going to say
and
that.
He's like, wait, I'm a software engineer. I know that there's weather data, and I know that there's ways for this to happen, and we could be linking it to the weather, and we could give people a software or an app that they can turn stuff on and off so that they don't have to be wasting water. So solving a problem of people don't like to waste money, they don't like to waste time, and they don't like to waste water. And I live in California, it's a drought state, and it's that's the 60% of person's water use is actually outdoor water. And it's an area where people just aren't that noticing, if there's a leak or the sprinklers going off and it's raining. Usually it's early in the morning, you're not out there. I mean, if you get a leak inside, that it's leaking. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, there's water all over the house. But
exactly.
If it went out in the morning and you weren't there, you don't know that it was even going off, or you don't remember. So we do alerts and all kinds of stuff to let you know, potential leak, or that we're doing a rain skip or a weather skip or a wind skip, so it's just a great mix of technology and a product that's existed forever that solves a customer's problem.
Yeah, it's so great. And I love the phone, everything goes to the phone, which we love, and which is good and bad. But right, if you're a gardener, because I think organics, growing from home, more people controlling their health, planting their own, like you said, sustainability is a huge trend. So you kind of have that fine balance, of all of it. And so over when a COVID season, when everyone was at home more, did you see an increase in, people purchasing the product or discovering the product? Or how do you guys get the word out there about your products?
Well, we get our word out in a lot of different, traditional ways. But I think the biggest thing is people were really into their outdoor space. They wanted to be outdoors. You want your outdoor space to look nice, which means you want your plants to be alive and healthy and getting the right amount of water, but again, without wasting water. And so that was a big piece, and our business did really well. Now we've also been, and we've overcome them, but we had and it was good. We were talking about having background in a lot of different things. So since I've done supply chain, having a product that has Wi-Fi chips in it and parts that need to be ordered, and a lot of them with long lead times and things like that, has definitely been one of those things that we've had to like work to solve that problem while solving the customer problem. But it's been fun, and I enjoy being here as the CEO. It was one of those things where people were like, hey, we've got some supply chain problems. Can you come in and help us? I started helping. They're like, can you stay? I was like, yeah, I'd love to stay. So it's been a great experience. It's a great group of people with a great product. And, we're talking about Women's Month. One of the things great, 35% of our employees are women, and we're in a, tech company with software engineers, everything. So I'm really proud of the fact that we're like, have a really diverse group that is there, and that we're supporting women in tech, and that we're continuing to mentor and develop in that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and that's what I was going to ask you. So, somebody watching or somebody in, our industry that wants to kind of evolve their career. I mean, you already mentioned something so great, like, taking a chance, kind of being confident, almost like overconfident and shoot for it. Right. But anything else that you would say, like, with women, how have you persevered, I would say, past like maybe something that intimidated you or something? Is there anything, like, if you look back in your career, is there a moment where you were like, oh my God, can I really do this? And something you had to overcome? Or is there like something really empowering over 2 decades that you're with Home Depot and Walmart, that really just, maybe lit that fire even more for you?
I think, one of the things, like I said, pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone is a big deal. And I still remember the conversation. I did not plan on being in operations. It was, you're in operations. And I was like, I have nothing about operations. Like, I've never been a DM or a store manager, then a DM. I don't even know how the registers operate. And you want me to be in operations? And they were like, look, you ask good questions, you know how to manage people, know how to talk about customers and get feedback from stores. And they're like, you're going to be great. Like, just continue to ask questions and continue to like figure out what customers want, and giving feedback to the merchandising team. And I think that was where it was really important to have a sponsor, where somebody that just like pushed you a little bit. And at the same time, I was willing to just step up for it. I mean, I look at you and I'm like, you've got your own business. You were talking about how you're like, hey, you just get in there and you do it. And I think everybody has that moment where you're like, oh, wait a minute. Because when you were saying like had one, I'm like, what do you mean? I have them like all the time.
Had one today.
Imposter syndrome, like, oh my God, should I really be doing this? I mean, even when I took the CEO job, I was like, I've never been a CEO before. Are you sure I can be a CEO? But I, every day I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. And then other days you're like, oh no, I do not have this. So, but I think it also makes you better at those roles, because when you get too confident, you won't like be curious and jump in and stuff. So I think it's okay to have those moments, as long as you're learning from them and they don't like keep you from stopping doing what you know is right. So
yeah, no, that's really well put. And it's funny you say that, because I was reading somewhere, I was reading something on social media, and it was like, women in the professional world need to be truly professional and not seem like they have a family. And women that have a family need to not seem like they're in the professional world. Like, so it's like these two worlds colliding. So like you can burn yourself out, right? Because we have to be so many things to so many different people. But if you just drive what you want and where you want to be, whether or not, what's the worst that happens? No, I mean, I know you have to have confidence, right? But
yeah, but I really like, and a lot of people, like, one of the questions you always get asked is like, I have two, well, they're not young anymore, one 14 and 17, but you've grown up in business, businesses like Walmart and Home Depot, and you've had kids, like, how's work-life balance? And I'm always like, I had a really good mentor who was like, you can't try for that perfection. Like, there's no such thing as balance. And like, as soon as people talk about balance, they're like setting themselves up for failure. And I'm like, it's like a pie every day. It's like, I go every day I get a pie, and it's like, some days work gets a little bit more, and some days my family gets a lot more, and some days it is 50-50, but you can't set yourself up for thinking that you're going to be able to create this everyday magical balance, because nothing in life is like that. It's like
I
usually
agree.
got both. And it's about being in it when you're there, like not trying to do both at the same time will help you to make sure that you know when you've got to have one going versus the other. And he was also like, make sure that like you give yourself a break when you're prioritizing.
Yes.
So it's like, if you know that it's something that your kids will remember, like, 10 years from now, that you like weren't at this event or whatever, then just do it. Like,
Yes.
tell people you're going to go and just do it. But if his thing was, if they won't remember a week from now, like a month from now, a year from now, a lifetime, he's like, that's how you prioritize it. So otherwise you won't give yourself a break. You have to be like everywhere all the time. And you're like, oh, there's no way. And, to this day, I've always used that. And I, know that the things that I needed to be there, that my kids were like, oh yeah, you did that. You made my costume for this like event, because I knew it was something that he was really into. But then there's other things that maybe I missed a party or something. And he was like, I don't even remember that you weren't there,
Yeah,
so it's
I
like,
love it though. It's such a good way to put it too, because otherwise we just drive ourselves crazy.
yeah, because you feel like you have to be in everything. And so
Everything.
that's one of the things that I also really enjoy about being a CEO now, is this whole change to being a virtual and being able to have this either hybrid or fully virtual means that you're really allowed to be able to set people up for that success of not having to drive home to get to an event. It's like, hey, I'm just not going to schedule this. I can go out and do it and I can be back, and not having to be everywhere all the time or just be there to be seen, kind of was the thing.
Oh God, it was so, what do they have now? It's JOMO. It was like FOMO, fear of missing out. Now it's JOMO, joy of missing out. Sometimes, and I was flying around to all these different news stations. So before COVID, I was actually flying to Sacramento, flying to Denver, flying to Houston for, 4 minutes on air, pack your bag. I mean, TSA probably had like a red flag on me. She's like, here she comes again with a plunger and a freaking power drill in her bag, minus the lithium ion. But now remote, I mean, I had to completely pivot my business, but now it's more successful than ever because of all of that stuff. So
companies can be successful. And I think, back in the day, it was like you had to be at your office or you had to be places, and it was hard. Like you couldn't get home for that half-hour thing that you wanted to be at. So you had to plan a whole day and you felt like you were missing out on something. And so I'm enjoying being the CEO of a virtual company where we're like able to hire the best talent from anywhere in the country, and still be really open to people working on all kinds of different schedules and different time zones. So it's kind of an exciting time to be able to be making a difference in that area, whether it's male or female, because there's
100%.
lots of people that need more, not balance, but just need more of the ability to be able to do different pieces of it during the day.
It's funny because that's why eventually I left Home Depot, because a new leadership came in. And you and I, we've always been in California for our careers, but I should have sat in Atlanta. And the new leadership said, why does our national product PR person sit in California? I don't get it. And then they moved my position to Atlanta, but they did me a favor because I would have done what I'm doing now. That's the year I walked into National Hardware Show's office and said, I want to work with you. So here we are, right? Now I've got my show with them. So it's been really cool. So, you get pushed outside of your comfort zone, like you said, and you never know what will happen. When I get my own show, I'll have the jet pick you up and we'll go, we'll go to the show. When I'm like Oprah.
But we'll be virtual, so we'll be able to know that we don't have to like.
You get a Rachio. I'll just be like Oprah at my show, right? We'll give them away a bunch of stuff. Well, and I mean, don't you think too, then that's important, like choosing the in-person events that you go to network and to socials. I mean, now it's more important than ever, hence going to things like the National Hardware Show where, you could get FaceTime with back in the day when you were a buyer with Depot, or, getting out there. Don't you think it's finding that thing that's really important to your niche and kind of going to it? Don't you think so?
Oh yeah, no, I think it's totally. And I think for the buyers to be able to get out there too, to the hardware show, being able to go as a buyer to those floors where, you may miss those if you weren't at a show. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
see the new creative products that are out there that don't have the same budgets and everything else to be able to see it. But those are where the unique new things are, like Rachio. Like you won't see those. And if you're not getting that opportunity, if they're either not at the show or the buyers aren't there to see them, it's just, you know, I think the customer is going to miss out on a lot of really great new products that they wouldn't have necessarily gotten the same level of exposure. So
I love it too. This year they're doing habitat, and actually Rachio should be in one of these categories. A big focus is water conservation or water usage, H2O, but they're going to even do a little happy hour in the habitat area between 4:30 and 5:30, a la Vegas, right? So you can have a beer and you can, you know, play with your power tools, right? I'm sure they'll have some protective eye gear, et cetera. But, you know, no, but I mean, you know, it is like, to your point, it's really that hands-on stuff where you get to experience it. It's funny, whenever a brand asks me to promote their products or talk about their products on TV or whatever, I always say, I've got to play with it first. Because if I don't believe in it, I've been trying to, since again, COVID, I've started to grow my socials and really realized how important that is and having that presence. But if people don't trust you, they're not going to listen to you. So you have to make sure your voice out there is really authentic. So
no, and that's why I remember when we used to, like, as a buyer or even at Home Depot, we used to have like all the times where we got to try all the products or do clinics and classes for folks. And it's funny because it's like a habit that doesn't die easily. So I was the same thing. I'm like, not only did I already I had a Rachio, and I was like, but I need to understand all the competition. So I have like 6 irrigation controllers that aren't all hooked up to my irrigation system because only my Rachio is hooked up, but I have them all plugged in so that I can play with all the apps and I can see how they work. And
I love it. Your husband's
how
going,
else do you
what do
learn
we have now?
about the competition and learn the product category?
It's so smart though. That's the way you have to do it, because there is, I mean, smart home, there is so much stuff out there, but really it comes down to the software. Is the software good? Is it easy to use? Is it compatible? You know, people don't want to go to multiple apps and do multiple things. It's like, is it all there? And does it do what it's supposed to do? And
well,
does
and that's our biggest differentiator. We always tell people that we're a software company that's enabled through a piece of hardware.
Yes.
Not a hardware company that's trying to figure out software. And the way, the flow, how easy you make it for the customer to set it up. I mean, irrigation is complicated. I mean, people don't think of it that way, but there's
incredibly.
like, I have a whole
sprinklers are always breaking.
Like this thick. They have classes in how to figure out the
it's crazy
for it.
It's crazy.
It's like nice that the way we walk the customer through the app, asking them like, what are you watering? You know, what climate is it in shade? Is it in sun? Is like really behind the scenes, figuring out when you should water so that we're super efficient with the watering, not just not watering. You know, 'cause that there's a big difference, because otherwise you're just skipping when it rains, but you're not really figuring out how much, when, and when to even add a little bit because it's hot, you know? So to me, there's a lot more to it. And that's why the software in IoT devices is way more important than the actual piece of hardware.
Absolutely. Well, and it makes me think to even whoever, you know, whether it's a widget, you know, like there's like a product called the Chandelier Swan that I love. I found these guys last year, and it's like a pole device that you can change out the bulbs on like hard to reach areas where you don't know, right? But it's so great because it's like, that's their niche. So they're solving a customer's problem is what I'm hearing you like, and then just go down that road, right? Like, how are you going to communicate that? How are you going to make it even better? How is it compared to other products out there? And that's one thing, even for my business, you know, it's like, would I like to be a food sommelier, or would I like to be a wine sommelier, or travel expert on TV? Yes, I would. Let's go. But I mean, I'm in home improvement, so it is what it is, right? And I love it. I mean, everybody has a home per se that they need to fix up or enhance. So it's been really fun. So, well, I hope we get to see you out at the National Hardware Show. We are, this year's going to be amazing. I mean, who doesn't want to be in Vegas in the spring looking at home products, right? The backyard area is going to be big backyard area. And then the year after that, it's combined with in January with the Builder Show and Kitchen and Bath Show.
Oh, wow.
It's
That's
going to
be like a trifecta.
Yeah, it's going to be big. So it's going to be in January. So you have to wear your jacket that year. But you get to see a lot
Well,
of product.
if it's Vegas, it's like jacket is like, what, a light windbreaker where I'm in Southern California.
I know,
It's
you're
like,
right.
I talk to people in Denver in the Northeast and they're like, oh yeah, don't even talk to us about cold.
Those are always the people out there in like their shorts and their t-shirts because it's
Yeah.
not snowing. I love them. That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, and happy International Women's Month to somebody that's wonderful. And if people want to learn more about you, we're going to put the link to Rachio below, but we'll have to, have a meet and greet out at National Hardware Show, or I know you're doing 8 million bajillion other things, but I appreciate you taking the time always, just to shed light on empowerment and being better at what you do, and every day striving to do that.
Happy to do it and continuing to look forward to being able to impact more women's careers. So
absolutely. Amen to that. Awesome. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.